Gardeners who want stronger harvests, richer soil, and lower input costs are quietly shifting toward one powerful idea, using what already exists around them. If you care about building a truly sustainable garden that feeds itself year after year, you are in the right place. Before we dig in, make sure you subscribe to Evergreen Garden and drop a comment sharing where you garden from, because this community thrives when serious growers share real results and experiences. Urban waste streams are one of the most overlooked nutrient goldmines for gardeners. Traditional composting has helped gardeners recycle kitchen scraps and yard waste for generations, but compost is only the entry point. Urban environments constantly produce nutrient-rich materials that usually end up in landfills. These include food processing, waste coffee grounds from cafes, brewery byproducts, market vegetable trimmings, eggshells from restaurants, cardboard, paper pulp, and even safe household greywater. Every one of these contains essential plant nutrients like nitrogen, phosphorus, potassium, calcium, magnesium, and trace minerals that soil life depends on. The real advantage of hyper-local nutrient cycling is freshness and diversity. When organic matter travels long distances or sits in landfills, valuable nutrients are lost through leaching or gas release. By intercepting these materials locally and applying them correctly, gardeners can dramatically improve soil fertility while reducing dependence on synthetic fertilizers. Coffee grounds provide a reliable nitrogen boost when applied with the correct balance. Coffee shops produce enormous quantities of used coffee grounds every single day, and honestly, most are quite happy to just give them away. Coffee grounds typically contain about 2% nitrogen, small amounts of phosphorus and potassium, and organic compounds that really support microbial activity. However, applying them directly without balancing carbon materials can, compact soil or even create moisture barriers. The most effective ratio for incorporating coffee grounds into garden soil is 1 part coffee grounds mixed with 3 parts dry carbon materials, such as shredded cardboard, dry leaves, or sawdust. After mixing, allow the material to pre-compost for roughly 2 to 3 weeks to stabilize acidity and begin microbial breakdown. Once the mixture darkens and loses its strong coffee smell, it can be applied as a 1-inch layer around vegetables or incorporated into the top 5 inches of soil. Gardeners growing leafy greens like kale, spinach, and lettuce often see improved leaf development when this method is used because nitrogen drives chlorophyll production and rapid foliage growth. Brewery grain waste can be transformed into powerful soil conditioners with proper fermentation. Breweries produce spent grain after extracting sugars during beer production. This grain is packed with fiber, protein, and nitrogen, but, it spoils quickly if used incorrectly. Fresh brewery grain contains roughly 3 to 4% nitrogen, making it, honestly, stronger than many traditional compost materials. To safely convert brewery grain into a soil amendment, mix 2 parts spent grain with 1 part dry carbon materials such as rice husks, a dry straw, or shredded newspaper. Add a small amount of finished compost or garden soil to introduce beneficial microbes. Then just remember, maintain moisture similar to a squeezed sponge. So, you'll want to turn the pile every 3 days for about 2 weeks. This fermentation stage really helps prevent any sour odors and also stabilizes the nutrients in the compost. After fermentation, brewery grain compost can be added to your planting beds at a ratio of 1 bucket of finished compost for every 5 square feet of garden bed. Root crops such as carrots and beets benefit significantly because the grain improves soil structure and increases moisture retention. Market vegetable waste can produce rapid compost teas that deliver immediate plant nutrition. Local markets discard large volumes of vegetable leaves, fruit peels, and spoiled produce every single day. These materials break down quickly and can be turned into liquid compost tea that delivers nutrients directly to plant roots and foliage. To prepare a rapid compost tea, fill a container halfway with chopped vegetable waste and add water until the container is full. Allow the mixture to ferment for 5 to 7 days while stirring daily. Once fermentation is complete, you'll want to strain the liquid and dilute it at a ratio of 1 part compost tea to 5 parts water. This diluted solution can be applied weekly as a soil drench or even as a foliar spray. Fruiting plants like tomatoes, peppers, and cucumbers often respond with improved flowering and fruit set because the tea provides immediately available nutrients and beneficial microbes. Eggshell waste can rebuild calcium levels and strengthen plant cell walls when processed properly. Restaurants and households discard a large number of eggshells, and interestingly, these shells contain about 95% calcium carbonate. Calcium is, absolutely essential for preventing blossom end rot in tomatoes and for improving the overall strength of your plants. Now, eggshells must be cleaned and dried before use, otherwise you might end up attracting pests. Once they're dry, just crush or grind them into a fine powder. The finer the powder, the faster calcium becomes available to plants. Mix 1 cup of powdered eggshells into every 10 square feet of garden soil before planting. For established plants, sprinkle 2 tablespoons around the base and lightly work it into the soil surface. Gardeners growing tomatoes or peppers can combine eggshell powder with compost at a ratio of 1 part eggshell powder to 20 parts compost to create a balanced calcium-enriched amendment. Cardboard and paper waste can serve as long-term carbon sources that fuel soil microbes. Urban areas generate massive quantities of cardboard and paper packaging. When shredded and moistened, these materials act as carbon sponges that feed beneficial fungi and bacteria. Carbon materials are crucial because they balance nitrogen-rich waste streams and prevent nutrient losses. To use cardboard effectively, remove tape and glossy coatings, then shred or soak it until soft. Lay down a 2-inch layer as mulch around fruit trees or vegetable beds, then cover with a 1-inch layer of compost or soil. Over several months, earthworms and microbes will break down the cardboard, adding organic matter and improving soil aeration. Gardeners practicing no-dig or regenerative gardening often rely heavily on cardboard layering to suppress weeds while gradually feeding soil organisms. Greywater recycling can safely deliver nutrients and hydration when managed responsibly. Household greywater from sinks, showers and laundry contains trace nutrients like phosphorus and potassium, along with valuable moisture. When properly filtered and directed, greywater can support garden irrigation while reducing water waste. Safe greywater systems rely on biodegradable soaps without salt or harsh chemicals. Greywater should be applied directly to soil rather than sprayed onto leaves to prevent contamination. So, a simple system, it involves directing greywater into mulch basins around fruit trees where microorganisms get to work breaking down residues before the water reaches the plant roots. For safety, greywater should never be stored for more than 24 hours, and it really shouldn't be used on leafy greens or root vegetables that are eaten raw. Fruit trees, ornamentals, and perennial shrubs, those are the safest recipients. Combining multiple urban waste streams, that creates nutrient diversity, which in turn strengthens soil ecosystems. The real strength of hyperlocal nutrient cycling actually comes from combining different waste sources rather than just relying on a single material. Soil really thrives on diversity because, different organic materials feed different microbial communities. A highly effective seasonal soil building blend can be created using, let's say, 3 parts shredded cardboard, 2 parts vegetable market waste compost, 1 part coffee ground compost, and a small handful of eggshell powder per wheelbarrow of mix. Applying this blend as a 2-inch layer across planting beds before the rainy season or irrigation cycle allows nutrients to integrate deeply into the soil. Gardeners who consistently apply diverse organic materials often report improved pest resistance, stronger plant growth, and greater resilience during drought conditions because healthy soils retain moisture and support balanced microbial populations. Serious gardeners benefit from forming partnerships with cafes, restaurants, breweries, and produce vendors. Many businesses are actually quite eager to reduce their waste disposal costs, and they're often happy to provide organic byproducts when they're approached in a professional manner. Consistency is key. Collecting materials every week prevents spoilage and, allows gardeners to maintain steady compost production. Using sealed containers during transport really helps prevent odor issues and keeps materials clean and manageable. Keeping simple records of input materials and observing plant responses helps gardeners fine-tune ratios and, develop personalized nutrient cycling systems that just keep improving with each growing season. Hyper-local nutrient cycling represents the next evolution of sustainable gardening. By turning urban waste into targeted soil nutrition, gardeners gain control over fertility, reduce environmental impact, and honestly, create gardens that become richer every year. If this guide helped you see waste as a resource and gave you practical strategies you can start using today, subscribe to Evergreen Garden, share this with another serious gardener, and keep building soil that feeds generations to come.